yelled at John Ossoff.
Yeah, like
That list of people, which was like Jewish Children's Foundation.
and so there's gonna be, I think, like those organizations, like they're moneyed, they are financed, and you will always, like the money will always, like honey attracts flies, like it will always end up being able to, or I guess honey attracts bees, but shit attracts flies. They will always be able to like maintain and be punch their weight or whatever. I think what's going to happen, and like this is what my anxiety is, that like the association of and like the increasing like narrowness of like, oh, like there's no daylight between what Israel does and like what these organizations advocate will lead us to a place where it's like, yeah, like the people who publicly identify as Jews in Jewish life and who break through in elite political life will just be Jonathan Greenblatt, and everybody else's perspective won't count. And the largest base of foot soldiers for all this shit are going to be, as you pointed out, like
Christian Zionists,
and yay, great.
Yeah, I think that also. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I always joke. Felix says this too, but like Americans are not well read enough to be like Euro style anti-Semites. So I don't think that they're like, because there's too much reading involved with that level.
I don't know. I think that like a lot of what I'm learning about the quote unquote noticing that's going on social media about the Jews is like this this really kind of it actually kind of dovetails with like the most stupid people's conspiracy politics of the present, which is just like, oh, have you noticed so and such is Jewish and so is so and such, and like these people are already like kind of running at like the limits of reason, and so it does feel to me that like base anti-Semitism, even if I don't think it'll end up being like a crazy material threat to Jewish people in America in like a systematic or grand scale, like there is just going to be like it's hard to deny that like, oh yeah, we're going to have a rise in it based on like how people are socialized now to just like be like, oh yeah, this person knows this person, therefore they're in an evil conjoined association, and by the way, they're Jewish, and like that'll just continue. And that combined with the fact that like the institutions in public life that do identify as Jewish and claim to make the rules about what's anti-Semitic and what's not are like largely doing so just because of Israel. It's like a perfect storm to like make people to like manufacture anti-Semitism.
Have you guys talked with like your normie friends about what they think about anti-Semitism right now? Because at least in my own experience, I feel like in talking with folks who aren't perpetually online or aren't, particularly well-read, just normal working class folks, it seems like the average person has developed a considerable amount of some resentment towards Jews. And I think that's kind of terrifying because you always have to kind of talk them down and be like, well, actually, chill out, please, just be normal. And I don't know. I mean, even this past weekend, I was talking with friends, and they have historically been extremely, like, fine, not racist. But they were starting to express, like, I could understand why someone would feel that way, sort of thing.
I will say it's hard for me to have those conversations because I'm like, I radiate I'm just like really Jewish and like outward, like it's just hard for me.
He
to
has it with me. I'm the guy.
It's like hard for me to have a convert to like get to
I'm
that
the
point.
anti-Semite.
It's hard for me to get to a conversation where we're talking about Jewish people like that, and like it hasn't come up yet that I'm Jewish, so I'll have to like take your perspective on it on that front. I mean, because I just don't think that like also the way people understand racism is that even a guy in a Klan robe in 2025 would like try to find a way to explain that he's not racist. Like it's just the weird like tick of this. So I could never be the person to be like, tell me about your anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find the IDF guy, Lion of Zion. I gotta do some anti-Semitism to Noah real quick. Chat. Do you know what I'm talking about? The guy with the beeper emote on his fucking account. The guy who's always
Max
like
Nordau?
The guy, no, not him. No, the guy who's always like, "Will you pray for us? Will you pray for us in Israel?" And he's like in Gaza in full gear with the beard. Dude, I swear to God, it like freaks me out every time I see him. His name is like Lion of Zion or something. I need not Vivid Prowess, who's in Uttar Pradesh.
Oh. Is he lying too, sir?
Oh, this is yep.
Lions.
I think this is the guy. Yeah.
No.
if you squint, and this motherfucker shows up on your timeline, it freaked me out the first time I saw it. I was like, what the fuck? There's more. There's a photo where he like this one is not doing any justice to what I was saying. He doesn't. Sometimes he'll post like from the neck down, like looking above. Oh my god, he posts so much. He's got to be like, his job has to be being a AI poster.
And they're all just AI. Yeah, it's so funny.
It's always funny because like they can't find anything. They can never actually fucking find anything that like any real support. Israel alone?
Oh.
Guys, it's all just watermelon trolling, and I'm addicted.
Hamas rebuilt a tunnel.
Oh yeah, he posted this recently. Hamas rebuilt a tunnel under a collapsed building.
Is the like it's all religious. It's religious courts that control the institution of marriage in Israel. So like if you just don't, even if you're Jewish and you just don't want to get like you don't want to have like a rabbi have to bless your marriage to go to Cyprus. So they're like, it's like just to give an example of like how interwoven they are already in a lot of ways with the country, with the island.
But now they're just like people are scared apparently that they're taking over more and more swaths of land in Cyprus or something. And I don't know if it's like just basically people doing tourism and being fucking annoying as Israeli tourists are known to be, or if it's like legitimately like becoming.
People are off. People are doing the like they want to be in both places. I don't think people can outwardly. I don't think Israeli society and like the structure of the country right now can really permit large numbers of people publicly saying peace out, bye. However, anecdotally, I can tell you I know a lot of people who are in Israel who may have made sure that they have 2 passports, that they have a home in another country. You know, like. And by the way, not just like Jewish Israelis. I'm talking about like often, you know, Palestinians from Nazareth, places within, you know, like the 48 borders who have people of Israeli citizenship and who like have essentially written off the idea of a future in the country, and who are people who are, you know, people who are professional class, middle class, invested in Israeli life.
If you're an academic, and you're not like fucking Benny Morris or something, and even Benny Morris, like, what future do you envision that you will have in a place like Israel with everything that's going on? If you're, like, even remotely aware. I'm not saying you have to feel bad about the fucking child murder, the child holocaust that is happening 50 miles down the fucking beaches of Tel Aviv. But, like, even if you're aware of, like, the instability in the country, like, you probably have the capacity to leave. You're gonna leave.
I think that they also, there's a part of this is that, like, at the same time, right, like, we're describing a subset of people who do want to leave because the Israel, as it is becoming, is not just, like, out of whack with values or whatever of these subjects, but also like it's economically unviable and so on. The people who are ascendant in Israel right now, like the coalition coming to power that is like driving a lot of like the most intense genocidal lust, right, are people who actually are kind of winners in this new paradigm within Israel, even if it's like we view it as like winning, as like they get to rule over the shrinking ice flow. And in this case, it's obviously it's the ultra orthodox, it's the religious who've gradually consolidated control over a variety of institutions.
But that is moving the country away from like the Western style country that it wanted to be, and that's how you lose a lot of the Western PR. Like, if Israel, if all the Arab Jews that lived in Israel, slowly but surely over the course of the past couple of decades became, like, less Arab and therefore couldn't do as much, like, infiltration and operations as they initially were able to do successfully, the same goes for, like, Western PR. If you don't have, like, the old school Ashkenazi connection to, like, the Western countries and whatnot, and you become more and more, like, illiterate Haredis with a fucking nuclear arsenal, then none of the people that want to be in intelligentsia is going to want to remain there because they're going to be like, this is gross. Like, they're spitting on me because I'm gay.
Now, you're absolutely right. But the thing I would emphasize is that people view this as like something that has like a tipping point effect. That there's going to be a moment, and this may be true in the sense that like there is such a tipping point in the future, where there's like such a critical mass of these kinds of people have left that like the state as an entity able to effectuate its own interests or whatever, like it has lost that power, that it does not have like that elite that was essential to doing that. I actually don't believe that like that kind like I believe that that kind of scenario is a bit of a fantasy most generally. Like I think in South Africa, for example, right? Like apartheid South Africa's government ended because the people in charge more or less decided to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And they did so in a way that was able to preserve an enormous amount of power,
Yeah.
even as the apartheid system was dismantled.
Yeah.
And black South Africans were given meaningful rights and so on. I think in this situation though, like these I don't think that this particular like group of people, whomever, like even if like this thing will go down rather violently, and even if these kinds of critical mass of people leave, like the state will like continue to exist, and it will just be a way more bloody and even more primitive and even more violent version of the thing that it is now. Whether that can survive as like a thing, a lot, you know, like surgically conjoined at the hip to American strategic interest, I kind of doubt. Even even though it has been like past what has defined the last half century,
it won't be able to. It will turn into a pure vassal, or maybe even like a more advanced version, I guess, of like how America treats its regional actors, regional allies, like the Kurdish militias, and like it will turn into like a Ukraine style situation, rather than like because it can't maintain the very successful influence operation that has had a stranglehold on like American institutions if you don't have that intelligentsia, if you don't have the academics, if you don't have like the constant commerce, like the
you don't have
Israeli
people who
companies.
don't have people who can go on American media networks and not sound satanic,
Yeah.
and not sound like you are literally just justifying child murder.
Yeah.
Like that's like a like, and that was like the Halcyon.
Like who's gonna do that? Itamar Ben Gvir? Like he's not gonna fucking do that.
There's people watching this can look up. There's a figure named Abba Eban, Abba-Eban, who was like considered the most erudite, sort of like the exact kind of person whom Israel lacks now. And if you are a liberal Zionist, you are like the kind of person and who still loves Israel in spite of like the atrocities it's committing. Like that kind of person is like wishing nostalgically for somebody like Abba Eban to be around. Somebody who coins bon mots like the Palestinians have never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity and so on. Like there's a kind of like a person that they imagine that like, well, if they just had this now, it would be helpful. And it's like, that would be true if you had like thousands of them, and that like you hadn't just like completely made like being a supportive of Israel something that is like the province of like again, like people who love child murder exclusively and who can't be convinced by like NPR effective Israeli spokesman anymore. Like that era's gone.
Yeah. And on the other side, there is I think, I mean, you can speak to this better than me, I think, but I feel like there's a severance in the younger generation of Jews that Israel relies on to also keep up the propaganda initiative, like get into like young Zionists are primarily going to turn into like a rabid base of evangelical Christians in the country, as opposed to like having like brilliant academic Jews that have like secular loyalty to Israel, because it's, like Zionism has become like a secular religion for all the Jews that don't like really care about keeping kosher, but like want a sense of community and a sense of shared purpose. That's gone for the most part. The only Jewish people that will maintain that will be like dudes who are not going to fucking college, who are already super conservative and maybe Orthodox.
There's a catch though, which is that like we're talking about people and like power. And like the power establishment is composed not just of people but also money, and like the major institutions of the American Jewish life, like parts of the major American Jewish establishment, and are organizations like the American Jewish Committee, the federations, organizations that do everything from like some welfare provision, but do a lot of supporting existing synagogues and so on, but are also instrumental in like not being aggressively nakedly we don't think of them as like AIPAC, even though they are also part of the Israel
AJC,
lobby.
like all the
And some are more hardcore.
All the guys that fucking